Alright guys, this is the Maya version. It comes with 5 scene files, all of them open in Maya 2009 or newer except for Soldier 01 DX11. This one opens in Maya 2014 or newer. All of the scene files contain the exact same rig and geometry. The only way they differ is the materials that are attached to the geometry. Basic shaders, this uses Fongs. This one is ideal for game exports. Mental Ray uses the Mia shaders. Mental Ray animation, same shaders, just has a few lights in the scene and animation applied, and it renders this sequence right here. Mental Ray thumbnail, same shaders, same light setup, just posed differently, renders this image right here. For the demo, I'm going to be using the DirectX 11 version. If you're going to be using this one, just make sure that your plugins are loaded, the DX11 shader right here, and in your preferences, display. And at the bottom there is a drop down, just make sure that also says DirectX 11. Then all you need to do is just set your viewport renderer to viewport 2.0 and it should look just like this. So I'm going to start with the top control. You can use this to position the character wherever you need him in your scene. It also has a few other attributes on it. You got global scale, where you can resize the whole character. Input link and input digit link, I'll go over those at the end. And then display mesh. If I go into wireframe, you'll see that render is an all quad mesh. This one smooths really well, and this would be the mesh that you actually render with. Proxy is a much lighter version. This is perfect for games or other real-time applications. You can also use it in the scene just to animate with and then switch back to the render mesh at render time. The COG control is pretty standard, as well as the spline controls. They're just a simple spline setup. The head you can move around to adjust the neck and rotate it to rotate the head itself. The arms are IK by default. If I move this control around, you'll see that the pole vector moves around with it. You can disable this with the follow hand attribute on the pole vector, and now you can see that it moves separately. I'm just going to undo this. The hand control has 3 attributes. FK blend, this switches to a FK mode, and then you can use that attribute to blend nicely between IK and FK. The spread and curl attributes, they modify the alignment of the metacarpal joints. So spread pulls them apart and brings them together, and curl staggers them. And these 2 attributes are great for pushing your poses to a more realistic level. I'm just going to curl the fingers in and show you the armor on the knuckles. This is an automated feature and it follows the finger motion. It uses the auto attribute here, which is turned on by default. So if I move the finger around, you can see it follow. You can just turn it off with that same attribute, and then that doesn't affect it, and you can just pose it manually. I'm just going to undo this. This is a really cool feature, the IK blend attribute on all of the fingers. Once I switch this on, you see a little box appear, and now each of the fingers are now IK mode, and you can move and rotate those around. That's really useful. I actually really like that feature. Up here we have the Clavicle Control, which is pretty standard stuff. The shoulder pad moves and behaves exactly like the knuckle armor. It's automatic by default. So if I move this arm around, you can see the shoulder pad follow. And I can turn that auto attribute off to disable and have the shoulder pad become a manual control. This is the same setup on the knee as well. Down on the IK foot control, we see that the pole vector moves with it, just like the arm. You can disable that same way. We have the heel attribute and the pivot attribute, and also a follow pelvis attribute. And I think I missed an attribute on the arm which was similar. It was the follow torso. Yeah, so these do pretty much the same thing. If I move this COG control around, you'll notice that the hand and the feet follow instead of get left behind. The foot FK control has the FK blend attribute, and if we turn this on, we can go into an FK mode for the legs. The toe control is pretty basic, and we have a foot tip control which allows you to roll up onto the toe end. And finally we have the gun control. There's a few sub controls. We have the trigger, we have the gun grip which slides back and forth, and also the barrel case which slides back and forth as well. The entire scene is organized into layers. We have one for geometry, the controls, those automated armor controls, and the gun controls. We also have two other layers for two different skeletons. One of them is the output skeleton. Now this is the skeleton the entire character is skinned to. This is the one that you would export if you were using it for a game. The other one is the input skeleton, and this one is able to drive the entire control rig with motion capture. You can see it's not skinned to anything, but it does work with the input link attribute that I skipped by on the top node. Now I'm going to show you just how easy it is to load motion capture onto this rig. Included in the Maya package, there is an input skeleton folder, and inside are two FBX files. The first one is a T-pose, and this is the file that you would use to apply or retarget your motion capture to. The other one is an identical file, except I've already retargeted a run cycle to it. Now this is the one I'm going to be loading. I'm just going to import that. And right away you can see the input skeleton update with the run cycle animations. Now all I need to do is just select the top node and turn on that input link attribute, and you can see the character now follows that skeleton. Right, I'm just going to turn that input link attribute off just for a moment, because there's one more thing I want to show you and you're going to absolutely love it. So I'm going to grab the gun and put it in the character's hand. Just bear with me for a moment while I put this in place. Just going to pose the fingers. Won't go too crazy, I promise. There we go, good enough. Just going to constrain that with the parent constraint and make sure maintain offset is turned on. Everything's working. Right, now I'm going to turn that input link attribute back on, and you can see we have a bit of an issue. The gun is crashing inside the chest, so I'm just going to move these arm controls out, and this works for every control on the rig. I'm just tweaking, making adjustments to the animation in a non-destructive way. So I'm just going to attach the other hand to the gun. Just going to use a parent constraint again, and then hit play. Let's take a look, and that's looking much nicer than when it first loaded in. So in addition to making fixes, you can actually create variations to your animations. This is an additive system, so doing things like turning the head works really well, and adjusting props. You can create some very interesting variations very easily and quickly, which is very powerful. One last thing, if you end up changing the namespace on the character, right now it's Soldier01, or even removing the namespace, just make sure that you update the FBX too so that names match. Because if those names don't match when you import that skeleton, you're going to just get a new skeleton. It's not going to actually update the one attached to the rig. So make sure you do that and you won't run into any issues. Thanks very much for your time, guys. I really appreciate that, and I hope you enjoy it. See you later.